Didn't. Some kind of biological imperative, I supposed. But, I continued, it's a really big house, and you guys can mostly avoid each other if you want. Indeed, every time I thought of the sprawling chalet I would soon be moving into with Mark Andrew Abernathy, my head went all swimmy. Tucked away in a tangle of trees, possessing floor-to-ceiling windows, soaring cathedral ceilings, crammed with the priceless works of art Abernathy had collected in his 431, soon-to-be 432, years on the planet, and a kitchen I had actually hills are alive spun around in, my new home felt like as much of a dream as the other details of my life at present. Chief among them, that this beautiful home was to be ours. As in, both mine and Abernathy's, for us to live in, together. Like, together. Because as of 3 months ago, we had officially mated. Fun fact, mated is code for boning. Only in the werewolf community, it means you're bound for life. And when an alpha like Abernathy bones an alpha heir like yours truly, kind of a big deal. Look, I said, reaching into the box to scratch Gilbert in the particular place behind his ear that made his face go all soft. I know this is a big adjustment for all of us. I mean, we have so many memories here. For Gilbert, these memories mostly involved my sharing scraps of assorted meats and nubs of gourmet cheese with him in the kitchen. For me, they were far more complicated. The first few weeks of my living here, I had been mired in a misery deeper than I had previously known existed. I had spent most of those days seeing the world sideways as I lay curled beneath the coffee table, a bottle of whiskey and a bag of peanut butter M&Ms at my elbow, my cheek against the hardwood floor. There had been something comfortable about that position, knowing I had fallen as far as I possibly could and would fall no further. I had been in exactly that position when Abernathy called me to come in for the job interview that changed my entire life forever. At the time, it had been a much-needed infusion of cash. Little had I known that he'd been sworn to protect my family for generations, and bringing me on as his assistant at the art gallery was the most convenient way for him to keep an eye on me. Not that I'd always made it easy. Rising to my feet, I returned to the bookshelf to gather a new armload of the many art history books that lined each shelf like loyal soldiers. As I pulled them out, a scrap of paper fluttered to the floor and landed at my slippered feet. I felt like I'd been punched in the sternum when I read the first line of the familiar script.
By now, you're probably thinking this was a really, really bad idea.
Morrison. A deep and abiding ache woke in my center as his name rolled through my head like thunder. Hazel eyes, a melange of lake water blue and melted toffee, hair like brown sugar fudge, face with the rough angles of a boxer, his achingly beautiful uneven smirk. At least, that's what he had looked like when he'd been the homicide detective charged with investigating the untimely death of several of Abernathy's lady friends. In those days, he'd spent an inordinate amount of time and energy attempting to convince me that Abernathy was a murderer, and then our relationship had become somewhat more complicated. And by complicated, I mean we had sex a lot, much to Abernathy's consternation. And by consternation, I mean he broke lots of stuff. Drawing a deep breath into my constricted chest, I forced myself to read the rest.
Well, you're right about that, but don't panic. I'm not boyfriend material, and I have no plans to complicate your life further. See you around. James. I figured after some of the things we did last night, we ought to be on a first-name basis. P.S. The taser that's not on your coffee table isn't police issue and didn't come from me. You shouldn't Google Taser X26, learn how to use it, and put it in your purse. It would make me feel better. Hypothetically. P.P.S. I've had a vasectomy, and my ex-wife is the last woman I was with. I got tested after I found out about the carny. You would have too, am I right? P.P.P.S. I plan to fuck your brains out as often as you'll let me. Just so we're clear.
I traced an idle finger over the letters. imagining him here in this very space, writing.